So others' opinions? No, not interested. Now, can you see what most people feel about that? You should listen to my opinions. You should let me express my opinion. You should let me have my opinion. And I'm going, well, you're allowed to have your opinion. I just don't want to hear it, unless it's God's. Right? Unless it's in alignment with God's. I can listen to your opinion, and sometimes I will listen to people's opinions, but frequently it's a waste of time.
So can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So when we're not connected with God yet,
Yeah.
to directly feel if someone's opinion is in alignment with God?
Yeah, which is a major problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we don't know. People express their opinions all day, every day, don't they? The newspaper is full of opinions, the telly's full of opinions, everyone's full of opinions. And if I can't measure them using some method that's reliable, can you see there's going to be problems in my life if I can't do that? Yeah.
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 So then, yeah, would I listen and assess later about?
Well, the key, there are times, you see, when you can feel the emotion of the person, there's times when you don't need to listen at all. At all. If the emotion is tainted, then, like, let's say the emotion is, I want power over you. And you can feel that I want power over you. Every single thing I say is tainted. Anything I say about myself, anything I say about you. What I think the truth is, what I think God's truth, all tainted by my desire for power. You follow?
Yes. I often have a body sensation where it doesn't feel well.
Yeah.
But then I don't know if it's an error of mine or if it's...
Well, you see, the problem for most of us is that we've become so detuned from our emotional state because we were taught as young children to become detuned, and we were taught what we felt was not exactly what mum and dad think is right. So then there's a disparity between mum and dad's feelings and my feelings. And mum and dad are teaching us they're God, and their feelings are the ones that are right. So now what do? Now I've got to, at some point, start detuning from my feelings. And then on top of that, I get errors in my own feelings through my addictions. So now if I'm measuring just by my own feelings what you're doing, I could have like 25 errors in what I'm feeling from you that might not have anything to do with what you're feeling. They're just what I think you feel or feel you feel. And I'm not actually feeling you, I'm feeling all my errors. Right? So that's not reliable either. So it's not reliable to say having feelings is humble. Can you see that?
Yes.
Because when you're in addiction, most of your feelings are completely arrogant. Completely. Like every single thing you feel when you're in every single addiction, every time you have that addiction, you are not feeling your feelings. You are acting upon something that causes you to deny your real feelings. That's why you want the addiction. So it's not accurate to say having feelings is humility. The feelings have to be in harmony with the truth in order for you to be humble, right? And this is the trouble most people have with emotion, is they go, I feel that, you're pulling me down, let's say. Now, there are times when the person may be pulling you down and you will feel from them a feeling of condescension or ridicule towards yourself, right? Many of you have that with me even during this presentation. You've had that, right? There are times when I'm saying something and you go, oh, God, that can't be true, right? And that's the feeling. That's the feeling you're having. Then there's other times when you'll go, I can feel the person loves me and cares about me, right? And they're saying things that I feel like totally wrong, like about me, totally wrong. Now, the reason why that might be happening is because you may actually have had lots and lots of emotional injuries that then cause you to have lots of demands about how you should be perceived and how you perceive yourself and how you think life should be, and all of them may be wrong. right? From God's perspective, all of them may be wrong. And oftentimes, if we're coming from the hells, we have to expect that most of them are wrong, don't we? We've sort of got to go, the way we've got to see it is, my opinion is like, it's like an ant's opinion. Does it really matter in the scheme of life? Does that make sense? It's like, it is a thing, and it obviously is probably guiding my own life, and maybe the life of people I influence. But at the end of the day, my own opinions are just like, compared to God's opinions, God's got the truth, the absolute, infinite truth, and I've got this finite little ant feeling of something being my opinion. Do my opinions matter? Of course they don't. This is why when it comes to changing my opinions, it's easy, because they don't matter to me very much, right? God's opinions, you try to change God's opinion to me, good luck with that. A lot of people have tried, and they've gotten so angry, frustrated, yelling, screaming at me, all sorts of things. But I won't move. You follow? Because I don't care about my own opinion. What I care about is what is God's. So here, when you said others' opinion, let's change it to be what it should be.
God's opinion.
God's opinion. Now, of course, as you correctly point out, it's pretty hard to find God's opinion when you're not humble. So it's sort of like you got to be careful that you're not in this, like trying to find God's opinion, but you're not prepared to have an open heart. You're not having a desire for truth. You're not allowing yourself to feel all of your emotions in harmony with truth and those that are outside of harmony with truth. So you can see that some of these things depend on other things happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, we need to say that humility, and you've sort of said that, but to tie it together, it as a state, it feels to me like I'm desiring God's truth, like I'm seeking it passionately while having my feelings. That's all a part of the state. So if I'm just having a feeling and I don't also have a seeking of God's truth at the same time, well, God's truth can't enter me for a start, but also I can't really trust that that feeling is going to lead me to truth because I'm not seeking the truth. I'm not releasing necessarily anything. So it's this is what I love about the 5 principles that Jesus has taught, love, truth, humility, faith, and action. When you start to feel them, you realize, they're all a part of one thing in a way or another. They're all
a part of love, aren't they?
They all come together. There's aspects of all of them in each other. So truth and humility are very closely aligned, and the seeking of truth is quintessential to...
Well, you could say truth is facts, couldn't you?
Yes.
God's facts, God's reality, and humility is my ability to be able to feel them all.
Mm. My loving desire, my passionate desire to feel them all. Yeah.
My passionate desire to feel them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can you see how each sort of taint changes the way we view a thing? And it manipulates it to a point where it becomes unrecognisable. Yeah? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Aria, you want to? Sure.
So it's related to humility. On day 1, I asked you a question about not sharing all the truth all at once because perhaps of love. And your response was that you would always share the truth because it's loving. And your response also was that I don't have a connection with my conscience for like thinking that way. But then afterwards, you shared that if someone was going to harm me, you would not tell them where I would be hiding. You would just tell them.
Can I just stop you?
Yeah.
Because your attitude this weekend has been very antagonistic.
I'm trying to understand.
No, I'm telling you, it is. It is. You have a lot of antagonism, especially towards Jesus, and it's not welcome here. You say you're trying to understand, but if you could feel the feelings that come out of you at the same time. No, I don't agree. You are not afraid. You're not feeling afraid. You're feeling forceful and
You want
pushing.
power.
Yeah.
You want power.
There's this dynamic that Jesus drew on the board with the spirits wanting power and you seeking power and the codependence. This is playing out in your life, and I can feel the difference in you from when we first
You
met.
want power over your fear. It's not
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm feeling like I'm confronting my fear.
Yeah, and I'm saying you're placing a lot of demands on others that they make it okay for you to speak. And when we interrupt in any way, you project that we're harming you, when really, when you have your fear, you won't place demands on others to take that fear away. You'll just have it.
You're being very badly influenced by some very dark spirits at the moment, Aria. And it's the path I see you taking from a spiritual perspective is going to end up with a lot of darkness for you if you're not careful. And that's one thing we're trying to help you with, but it's something you do not respect at all. And we care about you, just like we care about your partner Paul as well. We care about everyone we meet, but every single time in a discussion with you or he, the spirits get so antagonistic that they're like, right at the moment, if we could talk to the spirits with you, they'd actually be yelling and screaming at me. Like, that's what they're doing right now, right?
I would like for them not to do that.
Well, you're addicted to power.
Yeah.
You want power. And you're going to have to somehow address that emotionally to become more open. Your question that you asked, if you were more humble, you could actually see that both things can actually be true. But you see them, and the spirits with you are constantly picking on everything being said, and without any clarification generally, they're trying to pick on everything being said to try to help you find a hole somewhere. And then what they want to do with you is they want to say, see, there's a hole. See, there's another hole. See, there's another hole. And then in the process of that, cause you to go, that's all wrong then, because there's so many holes.
Yeah.
And that's their attitude. Their attitude is to try to get you away from truth, not to bring you towards it.
I want to say that I appreciate a lot of what you share very, very deeply. And that is overall my feeling towards divine truth, is that there's a lot that you share that I very much appreciate, and that's why I'm here. But there's a few things that I need to clarify for myself, because I cannot just accept all of it without putting my own thought and questions into it. So
And
that's where
you should
feel that
absolutely
I'm
put your
coming
own
from.
thought and questions into it.
You don't need to
but
do that in this forum.
That's
though.
right.
By
There's
doing
a
it
lot
here,
of
you're being
demand.
selfish with everybody.
Yeah.
Then this is how you're being unloving. By being this forceful about it, you're becoming selfish with everybody here. You need to have your own process, but you need to do it privately, right? Just like I have my own process and I do it privately, right?
Yeah, I listened to the audio again and I reflected on it, and then I still had a question. So I was on the topic of humility as we're talking about. I thought it made sense to raise it.
Yeah, and
It's not your questions that we
it's
are
absolutely
concerned
not your
about.
questions.
Your questions are often very good, actually. But it's the motivation driving them which we're concerned about.
Yeah.
It's the feelings that come from you and also the spirits with you when you're asking them.
Yeah.
You get into sort of this power frenzy that you want the answer. You want it now. You get very demanding. And these things are not in harmony with open acceptance or humility, actually. And it's all about managing the power over your own feelings. The general feeling you have is, I don't want to have to go through things if I don't need to go through things, is sort of the attitude. But there's also the spirits with you. They don't really even, they can see there's a number of very simple injuries that you have relating to power and men. They can see there's some simple injuries you have, and they have selected you to be with because they feel they can manipulate those injuries to the point where they will have almost complete control of your life. And unfortunately, because of the underlying addictions that you have towards power and feeling like you're better than others and feeling that you are superior to others, they feel that this is their opportunity. If we can criticise how you perceive truth, then and how you perceive divine truth that you've been drawn towards, and that if they can shoot a lot of holes in it to the point where and the biggest hole they're trying to do is shoot holes in me, in every interaction. So there's a lot of rage from them towards me. And as a result, there's often a lot of rage from you towards me, sometimes towards Mary, but you feel that she's controlled by me. So, you know, and the spirits also feel that as well. And so naturally they project less at Mary, but mostly it's towards me. And the reason why they're doing that is if they can discredit me in your eyes, then the source of truth is also discredited. And now they can replace that source of truth with another one.
With themselves.
With themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
I still believe that like so much of what you're sharing is true. I don't have a desire to replace that all with something else. And I also
Your
believe
addiction
that
for power.
because of many experiences that I've personally had.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Your addiction for power means you do have a desire.
yeah.
You want it to support the power position you need emotionally. And the power position you need emotionally is you need people to listen to you. You need them to honour you. You need them to respect you. You need all of these things. And as a result of that, to get those things, you're going to need to have power over people. And that's why every time often you speak, I stop you. And then every time I stop you, you criticise me, is because I'm trying to stop the power addiction from getting enabled constantly when we're interacting with you, which is the reason why Mary's now raised this with you now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's going to damage you. And yesterday you were on the verge of being ejected from this hall because of it, not just because of you, but because of the spirits you like having with you.
Yeah.
And this is our concern, is that if you continue the relationship that you have with these spirits that you've established, even with more entrenchment than when we first met you, if you continue that, you're going to end up in a state where who knows what's going to happen the rest of your life in terms of the soul degradation that occurs, right? And that's what we're concerned about for you. The spirits with you are very, very dark. They've already selected you.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, partly because of the partner you're with, partly because of yourself, right? And they've already selected you. You know you were selected. So we've even had that discussion with you in the past, right? So you know you've been selected. And this is indicative of the problem because they know there are some emotional injuries in you that are going to be tough to get rid of, but they feel you shouldn't get rid of them. You should be proud of them and you should engage them and you should get the things that you want. And then as a result of that, they are going to manipulate your life severely to the point of self-destruction. When I say self-destruction, I don't mean self-destruction. You're not prone to harming yourself or anything like that. I mean self-destruction in the sense of harming others so much and harming them with false teaching so much that in the end of the day, when you pass, that you're solidly in the hells just like those spirits are. These spirits are in a rage, and almost everybody you talk to can feel the rage, but you can't. And so it's like, well, if you can't feel it, but everyone else can, like, that means you're quite desensitized to rage as a control mechanism of you, right? And while that continues to happen, you're going to find you sort of carrying around this posse with you. And, you know, we've tried to talk with them, Mary and I, already, for your sake, and we can't. They refuse to speak to us, while at the same time try to abuse us at any time they possibly can. And it's like they won't speak to us, so it's going to have to be you that gets rid of them. Nobody else is going to be able to do it for you. But because you want them so much and don't understand the addiction that causes you to want them so much, they have quite a strong entrenchment with you already. Right?
And I sort of feel at this point we need to stop because I don't feel you're receptive to that, and that's up to you. But now it's taking away time from everyone else here.
So you don't allow me to finish my question?
No,
I don't think
definitely not.
Okay,
No.
that's okay.
I don't know whether we can answer any more of your
No,
questions
it's-
while they're driven by spirits with you, telling you to ask that particular question, to poke holes in whatever we teach. so that they can get some more entrenchment with you. Their motive for giving you this information is already quite bad. And if you allowed yourself, they don't even allow you to think logically. That you think you're thinking logically. In fact, you quite arrogantly believe you think you're thinking logically, but you're actually, for the most part, having their thoughts. Yeah. And what their thoughts are is, there's a hole there, there's a hole there, there's a hole there. And because they don't have any sensitivity, the spirits don't have any sensitivity to God's truth and don't want you to have any. They're solid in the hells. They don't want you to have any either. They want to poke holes in everything. And this is what we find with people from the media. It's a similar feeling coming from you as people in the media. It's like, poke hole here, poke hole there, poke hole there. Oh, look, here, he actually got donations from people. There you go, that's wrong. And like, why is it wrong? It's the only way we can live. Like, there's no, there's the desire for spirits in these positions of power to poke holes as much as they possibly can in divine truth, so that the least amount of people listen to it, so that there's the least amount of change on earth, because if there's any change on earth, these spirits lose their power. Yeah. And that's the big...
Yeah, I would rather not poke holes. I would rather ask questions for understanding, and I apologize for any part of my question that had that intention. I think it is a mixed intention.
Most of your questions do get angry, though. Eventually you do get angry and feel bitter when you cut off. And
I think right now I'm not angry at all.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that half the room's going to disagree with you. Yeah. But that's something you'll have to work your way through in terms of feelings.
Yeah, when we're feeling all this stuff that's not seeking, it's not humble, it's not innocently looking for truth, it's critical and judgmental, which is what we feel when you ask a question, and then you still want to proceed with the question. We want to respond to people who are seeking, you know, they don't have to have made up their mind, they don't have to accept everything we say just because we say it.
In fact, many haven't, right?
No, yeah. But we respond to a heart that's open and it's seeking, that opens you to truth. And I understand. You often have
a solid opinion of your own.
Yeah.
You feel that our opinion disagrees. You want to criticise our opinion so you can retain the solid opinion of your own.
Yeah.
And that's
so it's quite difficult then to answer your question, because it doesn't actually feel like a question. It feels like a point that you're trying to make.
It's a statement, really.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think we should move on.
The statement you were just really making is, I've contradicted myself. Yeah. That's really the statement you were making.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, you said on this day I said that, and on this day I said something seemingly the opposite, is what you believe.
No, I actually didn't think that it was the opposite. I think it goes together very well.
Can you feel what you're feeling right now?
I find it really hard to articulate, like actually share what I was, like where I was going to with it. I'm not so good at expressing myself.
I disagree.
So
you're very good at expressing yourself.
It doesn't feel like it. It feels very scary to me.
No, I feel your underlying emotion is that, but the desire for power also means the spirits are often expressing through you anger rather than actually the underlying feeling. Because anybody else in the room who's afraid and they're expressing themselves in fear, I have a completely different response to them, don't I? Yeah. But not to you or your partner, but to them, yes. Because a lot of what you call your fear is fake. It's really power. You want power. And that's what my concern is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing your point of view.
Yeah, it's just my point of view. If you're going to continue projecting at me that my point of view is wrong the whole time we're here, then there's no point in you being here.
Yeah. There is, as I said, a lot that I agree with very, very much.
I know. Yeah. I know there is. But I know when you do agree. Yeah. But I also know when you have a strong feeling of disagreement. Yeah. And I also can feel the spirits who disagree with me almost all the time. And the only thing the main thing they want you to do is get to the stage where you exercise this power emotion to such an extent that I ask you to leave. And then they get what they want, which is they get, there you go. See, there's the problem. Here's the problem. And then they get to go, there's a problem with that. Don't listen to that anymore. And then, of course, they get what they want, right? So that's where they're leading us, to cause you to act in an unloving manner without knowing you are, to the point where I've got to say, it's way too unloving for us now to be in your vicinity and ask you to leave. And that's what they want. That's why I've resisted doing it, because I know what they want. But I'm also concerned though about what you want, because you're addicted to power at this stage. Desire for a feeling of superiority over others is very strong in you, and not equality, but superiority over others. And I know they're saying to you, even while I'm saying this, they're saying, but that's the way he is, but that's the way he is. Mm-hmm. And there's very little I can do about that. You're the one receiving those messages.
Yeah.
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 So let's move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. You know, I'm also receiving these messages, but I'm also receiving the other side. Like, I feel like somebody's telling bad things about you, then somebody else is trying to prove them wrong. And then,
Correct.
yeah. So
yeah, there's inside of you. There's sort of there's what I said the other day, right? You remember remember that discussion? This discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got that happening, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One hand they're saying, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Look, he just said something opposite he said before. And the other one's going, but that's not true. And you're yet to make up your mind.
No, mine is more about pushing about how you are treating me, not what you are saying is true or not.
Yeah.
Because I have a fixed belief that what you're saying.
Oh, yes, and also for Aria, that was the same thing. She's very worried about how I treat her, but her definition of how she should be treated has a high level of demand in it, just like yours does. You don't realise that a lot of what we've been brought up to think is right way to get treated is actually turned into, on our part, a demand, right, coming from us towards another. And any time I feel a demand coming from somebody towards myself or even towards another, I'm going to go, that's out of line, and I won't accept that demand, right? And then the average person who feels this demand goes, you don't love me now. Because my version of love is, I should be able to demand something and you should give it. If you loved me, you'd give it to me. Like, I'm desperate to know the truth. You should tell it to me. I'm desperate to get some time from you so I understand this problem, because I don't want to resolve it myself, or I don't want to feel insecure in resolving it myself, or I've got spirit influences saying it's completely false. And in that place we go, I'm desperate, I want it. So my needs are more important than everybody else's here, is what the end up of that is. And we're here to learn about love. Your needs are not more important than everybody else's. That makes sense? Everybody else here we're all equal. Your personal needs are your personal needs, and God understands them, and oftentimes we understand them too, but it doesn't mean they're more important than somebody who's been silent over here, who's never put up their hand and feels almost afraid to, given the atmosphere, Yeah?
Yeah.
Then what is that contradiction in me? What am I feeling? Like, okay, the bad things that are coming, attacks towards yourself.
Yep.
And what is the other side of it, the contradiction side of it?
Every one of you is in a battle. Now, maybe we need to describe the battle. And then
Can I just make one point about humility before you
I
flip?
haven't finished with the humility.
No, but it's about demands.
Yeah.
When we're humble, we are not submissive, but equally we understand demand. We have no demands when we're humble.
Can we turn the heater off? It's getting
Yeah, I was
hot
just
now. Are
about.
you hot, guys?
Yeah, I'm hot.
I'm hot.
Now my point about
Sorry. Go.
demands.
Yeah.
When we're humble, we have no demands. Yeah, we have none.
You know, Mary, that for me is a passion
had
that
one.
I feel.
You just had one.
So,
Yes.
which one?
You just had a demand.
Yes.
You got to learn to recognise what the demands are. Mary made a statement. Say the statement again.
When we're humble, we have no demands.
And then immediately your demand was that she listens to your opinion. Instead of letting her statement settle with you, instead of letting it go, okay, when I'm humble, I have no demands. What does that mean for me? You didn't even hear the statement. It didn't even cross your mind, let alone your heart, because you didn't give yourself enough time to just feel it even and go, what did Mary mean? So if I was humble, Mary makes a statement. So Mary makes a statement again.
When we're humble, we have no demands.
And I'm going, why has Mary said that to me?
Because I did say it to you specifically because we had a talk in the toilet and you were saying, Jesus didn't meet all of my addictions to be heard. And what is your demand?
No, I said he.
There it goes again. There's another one.
No, but don't you
No,
want
there's
me
another
to
demand.
clarify the process?
You
I
did
said
say,
it triggered my addiction on my
Yes.
mom's side.
yes, which
that-
is the same as
You
not
see-
meeting it.
Even the demand just to correct Mary was another demand. Mary is making a point. What's the point?
Yeah. Well, what is my point? Do you know my point?
Yeah.
Yes, that I'm very demanding in a sense when I'm.
You don't see it as a sin.
No, certainly I do, but I was explaining to you
No, I have to disagree
You
with
just
you
did it
there.
again.
what I was feeling when I was doing that. So I was telling you
Let's
that
flip the
on
board.
my side it was a blind enthusiasm, but obviously on the other side it was.
Now you're
no, no,
making
now you-
everybody listen to your story,
Yes,
which
and
is another
also
demand.
You're disassembling from the
And
demand.
every demand is unloving.
Yeah.
Every one you're having is unloving. You demand, instead of letting Mary share some truth with you, you're demanding she hears your point of view.
And honestly,
Unloving.
when I felt that, when I am humble, I have no demands. Oh my gosh, it changed my whole attitude to my addictions. Yeah, I didn't then just go, oh yeah, but I had addiction that was triggered, so that's why I did it. I was like, oh crap, every addiction is a demand. Then I got to give them all up, you know. So it wasn't. I'm just trying to help you understand what I've understood because it's life changing. Yeah,
Well, it's life-changing if you accept it.
yeah. When you connect.
I really am not understanding it.
That's right.
That's right. And
I agree
hence
with
me-
that statement.
Hence me saying it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying, or maybe I'm not.
No, no.
You,
No,
you're
not.
still, as Jay's trying to say, you're still in the demand you're in is stopping you just settling with, okay, right.
Yeah. So remember, was it a day or so ago when Tim said, put up his hand, he said something about that I'm an atheist. I just realised I'm an atheist. Now, when we have these sort of realisations that I just realised I'm demanding, right? If that had actually happened for you, then you immediately go, I've got to put the microphone away now because it's like, I'm using this as a tool to demand things from people. You know, I've got to get rid of that. And, you know, every interaction you would then start questioning, right? You would question every interaction you have with every person. At the moment, your definition of love is, I have the right to be heard. And you don't. You don't have the right to be heard. When somebody listens to you, it's a gift they give you, right? And they don't have to give you that gift. They can completely go, I don't want to listen to you. They're allowed to. And they would even be loving doing that. They're actually, it's not unloving to say, I don't want to listen to that person. Right? That's not unloving. But you believe it is. And this is where the demand comes from. You believe that if somebody doesn't listen to you, they're being unloving to you. And I'm going, no. You're being unloving to them, expecting them to listen to you. Does it make sense?
I agree with you.
No.
No, I agree, but I don't feel when I do it. I agree with
Yeah,
you.
so
No.
yes,
You don't agree, and this is what I mean when you said I agree. You're thinking I agree, but feelings is I don't agree with that. I want my demand. Right?
Or it's like we talked about a few weeks ago where we have an awareness of sin, but no awakening to it in ourselves. And it's the awakening that's going to shift.
Yeah.
It's the shift, you know?
But see, between awareness and awakening, there's usually a big fight.
Yeah.
And it's important to describe what the fight is.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Right? So where is sin stored? Where is it stored? According to what I'm teaching. In the soul. Okay. So here's your half of the soul, and the sin is in it. Like actually, physically stored as emotions and experiences inside of that soul. It's actually in it. Can you see that everything you hear is going to be filtered through that sin? Everything you experience from now on is going to be filtered through the sin. Everything you hear people saying to you, filtered through the sin. Every relationship you have, filtered through the sin. Everything happening to you is filtered through the sin. Absolutely everything. Your experience of the spirit world filtered through the sin. Your experience of your earth life filtered through the sin. Now, can you see from that what the big problem is? The sin inside me taints my perception of everything. Absolutely everything. When someone's talking to me, my perception of them, my perception of what they're saying, the words they're saying are all tainted by the sin that exists in me. All of it. And this is the difficulty you're going to have. All of you will have this difficulty. The difficulty is, how do I get truth in me now that this sin is in me? Because the sin in me, so let's put the sin as a great big red splotch, shall we, in our soul. The sin in me, everything being said and everything being experienced and everything happening is all going through my sin. So my very perception, my emotional perception, my sexual perception, my physical perceptions, sight, taste, smell, even sight, taste, smell, even your touch, everything, right the way through to everything spiritual perception, which are our highest perceptions we talked about, yes? All of it is tainted by my sin, the whole lot. So can you see what the battle's going to be? How do I receive God's truth when everything is tainted by sin? And my perception even of what the truth is going to be tainted by the sin. So I'm thinking I'm getting the truth. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I think I get that. So somebody talks about love. Oh yeah, I know what love is, sacrifice. You know, that's love. And so my perception when I say the word love is sacrifice. So when somebody doesn't sacrifice for you, you think they're being unloving. And when you didn't sacrifice for someone else, you think that you were unloving, right? Because the perception of even the word love is tainted by the sin. Now, can you see why an awakening to sin is so important? Totally. You see, unless we awaken to the sin, the perceptions of everything we experience will be governed by the sin. And so therefore, even what we're hearing, when we hear the word love, we're going to think it's one thing. When we hear the word truth, we're going to think it's another thing. When we hear the word humility, we think it's another thing. But it won't be what it is. It won't be God's reality of what it is. It'll be the thing that the sin dictates it should be, right? So the problem we face, the battle we actually have, is not with anyone outside of you. So, you know, before, in a way, you're sort of in a battle with Mary, you know, like not listening to her is a battle with her, right? But the biggest battle you're going to face is actually the battle within your heart and your soul. That's the battle. The battle is between the sin that's in it and the truth that could enter it, right? And this battle, while you fight things and while you resist things and everything, sin's winning. Sin's winning. And if you look at the earth, the way the earth is, sin is winning. It's winning with everyone because everybody has their own perception of what they call love, which is in the hells. And as a result of it being in the hells, sin is now winning. The sin that exists in each person is winning. Now, and the only way this is going to change is for some of the sin to come out. That's the only way any change is going to happen. Can you see? Yeah. So to get this sin out, I must first become aware and then eventually get to the stage where I'm so awake to it that I see it as God sees it. Eventually, it's going to take a process of becoming first some kind of intellectual awareness, oh, this is a problem, right the way through to another state. And if I can get from awareness, because awareness is not good enough, because the sin's still there. Even when you're aware of it, you go, oh, I did this, and I know I do that, and I know I do this, but you'll keep doing it, right? Because the sin will dictate through its emotional state and through its experiential state, it'll dictate you got to keep doing it. You know, you got to keep having those addictions, you got to keep having those fears, and you got to keep having that anger. It'll dictate to you that you should keep it. And the truth is saying, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. So naturally now there's a battle. And the battle is problematic because it's inside you.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason why that's so problematic is every perception you have, even of truth, is tainted by your sin. Right? And this is the battle that is going to be so frustrating. It's going to be so it's going to probably, for the average person on earth, if you're dedicated, life dedicated to this process, it's going to take you a minimum of 15 to 30 years to deal with it. Right? You're going to have to be, so people will say, why does anybody listen to me really? Because I'm not telling you there's any magical solution. I'm saying there's going to be a 15 to 30 year internal battle if you're dedicated, right, of you getting rid of this sin to the state where, you can even just receive love and actually get. And of course, the more you receive love, the easier it will get. And if you receive love from God, I'm talking about, the easier the process will get, because God's love changes your perception. And also, remember I said, I think it was on Friday, the causes can be eradicated by God's love, the cause of your sin, which means the reason why you sin the way you do can be gotten rid of, which means your perception can change. You follow? So the more you receive God's love, the more your perception changes. But to receive God's love, you have to have an awakening to each sin, to the sin. Not an awakening to the reason why you have it, but an awakening to it. Yeah. Like what you did, why, and everything about why you did it really is a part of it. Eventually will come to you. But what you did, and being humble to what you did and so in other words, right now, if we look at the interaction, it's like you were demanding every single time you opened your mouth. That's what you did. Right? You actually broke the law of love every time you opened your mouth. Now, the sin inside of you is saying, no, I didn't. How dare you say that? I was all I was doing was expressing my opinion, and all I was, that kind of thing. And but the feeling inside is, the sin itself is saying, I should express my opinion. Everybody should listen to my opinion. Everybody here has to listen to my opinion. Now, everybody here didn't come to listen to you. They came to listen to me and Mary, right? So whenever you impose the whole audience listening to you, you're actually being unloving to them. It's a gift they're giving you to even listen in the first place. Every one of you, when somebody else puts up their hand and you listen to them, you're giving them the gift of your time, your energy, right? Mary and I are very sensitive to that. That's why whenever one of you becomes demanding, we go, you need to shut up now. Because everybody's here, not just us. So, but the point is, this sin is going to taint every single experience until it's gone.
It's like a corruption of morality. It's a corruption of right and wrong. If we think about morality, God's morality is what is right and wrong from God's perspective. But our sin creates this whole other system where we go, no, my sin is right and everyone else is wrong on this matter, or what have you. Yep. But it's like it creates a compass inside of you of right and wrong that's completely going in all the wrong directions.
Says north is south.
Yeah. And that's why it's a battle, because it's ingrained in you that this should be right, and then when you start to feel like, oh, maybe there is something wrong, then it feels quite intense, doesn't it? Because you've got
intense emotions that have to go through,
yes.
and so much resistance. The sin has so much resistance to feeling those emotions, by the way, as well. So it's sort of like, now the sin's in a fight. I don't want to feel those emotions. I don't want to have to feel that and release that. I don't want to let it go. You follow? And so what's happening is the sin is fighting for itself emotionally inside of you.
Yeah.
Inside you. It's the worst thing. It's the worst feeling. Like it's the, if any of you read the Paget messages, yep. When they talk about the pain and suffering of the spirit world, this is the pain and suffering. The internal battle between right and wrong that occurs inside the individual and not outside them. Now, the condition of the individual also puts them in a place, but it's the emotional state inside self regarding God's principles and laws that actually are the problem, that are outside, you know, in opposition to God's principles and laws, that are inside of me now because I imbibe them through some errors in my family, but I also imbibe them because of all the things I did, all the things I expected, all the unloving things I chose to do in my life, all the experiences that were unloving that I chose to engage in my life. This is how the sin has gotten in me now. And the sin is there. It's demanding attention constantly. It's demanding that you live in harmony with it constantly, right? And this is the trouble. How do you have principles from God when the sin is opposed to every principle from God? It's tricky, eh? Mm-hmm. This is the battle. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the internal war that goes on with every soul. Now, in the Paget messages, there was a message from me saying exactly that the battle that you face is the battle that goes on inside of you. That's going to be the trickiest thing. And one of the things that is really hard to explain to a person is how the sin is changing their very perspective. Like, I sometimes related it to like putting on red glasses and you just see everything red, you know? And that's what the sin is like. But it's worse than that because it's in you. It's like doing that. It's not something you can just take off and put on and take off and put on. It's like there inside. And this is the battle you're going to face, and the battle that every spirit, we haven't got to talk to some of these spirits yet, and we want to do that, right? So we'll do that after lunch. But every spirit who ever is faced with life in the spirit world always will have to go through the battle. So this battle is ahead of you, whether you like it or not. So my suggestion is like it. Because if you don't like it, it just lasts longer, takes longer, it's more torturous, you know, and it affects a larger portion of your life. If you like the battle, if you can go through the battle and actually learn to enjoy it, because you're battling sin, the very thing that causes all the pain and suffering of earth, the very thing that causes all the pain and suffering of humanity that's ever been, has been the sin inside humans. And so have a feeling of
rolling up the
sleeves, you know, like taking up the sleeves.
Getting down to it, yep.
This is a hard day's work, but it's going to be longer than a day, right? Have the attitude, it's going to be longer than a day. It's going to be longer than a week. It's going to be longer than a month. Roll up your sleeves. Be prepared to get down and dirty with your sin. And I'm serious, right? You're going to have this attitude of passion about dealing with it. Not sin again. Oh, no. You know, but no, I want to know every sin. I want to know everything I do. I want to understand it. I want to understand what drives it. I want to, you know, get some perception of it in myself. So, because if I have that attitude to my sin, I am conquering my sin. Now, one of the things, you know, forget about like power over others, forget about, you know, having popularity, forget about having like some notoriety in the world, forget about being the best sportsman and the best whatever, go through the battle with passion, understanding that you're solving the whole world's problems, starting with yourself. Amen. Does that make sense? Yeah. And you imagine if just 20 people on earth had this attitude and they infected another 20 people like a virus with the same attitude, and they infected another 20 people with the attitude, you can see that just the changes you make and the attitudes you change will have an effect on other people. And if they make the same changes and the same attitude, you can be instrumental in a large number of people here on earth never, ever, ever having to experience pain in the spirit world. Ever. Wow. You could be instrumental in people passing into like the second sphere or the third sphere, which are much more beautiful than earth. So instead of going through the hells where most people are going to have to go because the whole world's in the hells. Instead of going through the hells, because they have had this attitude, I'm a warrior. I'm battling my sin. I'm not going to be violent about it, but I am battling my sin and I'm dedicated to the battle, and I'm going to keep this battle until it's done. And preferably, I will do it with God's help, right? But there are times when you're not going to get God's help because you don't want it, right? Because you feel oppositional to God's help or whatever. There'll be times when you feel like God's not helping me at all. And you'll feel angry even with God at times. But at the end of the day, understand, your sin is the cause of all the world's problems. And the only sins you can change are yours. You can't change anybody else's, right? You can influence other people into wanting to change theirs, but you can't do it for them. There's nothing you can do for another person on this issue. It's your sin, your battle. Treat yourself like the beautiful, powerful soul that God created you to be. Like a soul warrior against sin. Yeah? Treat yourself like that. Stop accepting this paradigm that's been propagated on earth through religious and other constructs that we're all imperfect. We're just human. That's why we do things wrong. We're just human. We're just imperfect anyway. We were created imperfect. Rubbish. None of us were created imperfect, right? God created every single individual perfect, and it's only sin that made us imperfect. And sin is our creation, so God's going, you got to get rid of it. I'm not going to get rid of it for you. I'm going to help you get rid of it. He created lots of mechanisms to help you, right? But he's not going to get rid of it for you. That's something you're going to have to do for yourself because it's in you now. That's why you have to do it yourself, because it's in you. Nobody else can reach inside of you and sort of take it out. You know, all this New Age philosophy that says you can, and all this Christian philosophy that says somebody can. You know, Jesus' blood does that. All absolute rubbish, right? No one's going to help you do it. You're going to have to do it. When I say help you, God will help you, but no one's going to do it for you. Like, nobody can. It's inside you. Nobody can do it for you. God can help you once you're willing to do it. That's all. That's all. God is not going to force you to do it. God's going to wait until you want help to do it, but he's not going to force you. The law will force you to do it. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do it. So get over the fact, like many of you have the attitude, oh, yeah, it all sounds too hard now. Sort of like, my God, maybe the best thing to do is not listen to divine truth anymore, sin some more, and then just wait to the spirit world and it'll be easier. Well, I've talked to millions and millions of spirits in my lifetime. None of them have found it easier in the spirit world. Not a single one. Because most of you don't understand how the spirit world is constructed. It's constructed that the very sin you have will put you in a place where everybody else has the same sin.
Yeah.
Like, not only will everyone else have the same sin, you'll all be in a frenzy to keep committing it. That's what sin does. It's an addiction. It's like an addiction to smoke. It's like an addiction to drink. You'll be in a frenzy to keep doing it, just like you are on earth. So that's why if you can get a start here, if you can start here on earth, you're going to be light years ahead of yourself. In the sense that if you can get a start here, there's a whole heap of pain and suffering that you will not have to experience in the spirit world because you've got to start here. And to be honest, you almost just need a start at least. Like, you don't have to do the whole lot even on earth, and it's going to be better.
Yeah.
Right? But my suggestion is, why not do the whole lot on earth? Then you could have a good life, the rest of your life on earth. So you think for many people who listen to Divine Truth, they might be in their 20s or 30s. Great. By the time they're 50, sinless.
Wow.
Right? And then the rest, then it's like, how long do I live? Well, I'm going to live probably a while, given that sin is normally the thing that kills me, right? So I'm going to live a lot longer than I would have otherwise. You know, you might live to 150 or 200 years if that's what you want, but you might not even want that. But it'll be completely different to what most of you think it's going to be, right? And the reason why is because this battle is inside, and it's just like, it's a difficult battle. Every single person who's ever engaged it, and every single person has to eventually, has found it the most difficult part of their entire life, right? And then once it was over, they go, wow, I just wished we didn't sin in the first place, you know? Yeah. And you can understand why, because, and this is one reason why Mary and I returned to earth. It's just like, if you don't sin in the first place, then there's nothing you have to repent for. The sin itself gives you more the sin is without sin, you've got more clarity. You can see truth better. You can act in harmony with that truth better, right? So this is what I would recommend to all of you to, and you know, I think in the future what we might start doing is every time somebody puts up their hand and starts talking, okay, there's another sin, and there's another sin, and there's another sin. It will annoy the hell out of everybody, right? But it's like, it's important sometimes to know that this is reality, right? This is one thing we're trying to do in the humility and practice days. Like, there goes another one, there goes another sin, there goes another sin. And of course, you know, it's very confronting for the average person who comes to one of those in God's way, because it's like, oh, no, leave me alone. You know, it's sort of the, let me be, just don't talk to me at all. You know, that's the attitude we have about a sin. The sin will do anything. It's slimy, slippery, deceitful, devious. It will do anything to prevent itself from being released. Right? Anything. It will even kill other people to stop itself from being released. Yeah. That's why we have wars. You know, it'll rape people. That's why we have rapes. It'll, you know, cause huge amounts of like violence in a family. That's why we have violence in a family, because the sin is not released. It will fight for itself to the point of how far it thinks it needs to go. And and if you're not in a battle with it, you're going to let it go. Yeah. You're going to let it go where it goes. Right? So we see for many of you, you're hearing divine truth, but your soul keeps degrading because you don't understand your sin. Even your perception of divine truth is being tainted by it. Yeah. So you act in it, in your sin, thinking you're practicing principles relating to divine truth, only to find that it causes more problems rather than solving any in your life. Yeah. So this is the thing. This battle with sin, I can't emphasize to you enough that you need to understand yourself better with your sin. Can't emphasize that to you enough. And Mary and I are doing whatever we can do to help you do that. But when we say interrupt you, we're interrupting you because you're already sinning. When we stop you, you're already sinning. That's why we stopped you. And a lot of people go, oh, I'm annoyed with that. There's your sin. Right there. We're trying to highlight it to you in every moment we spend with you. We're not going to wait for you to voice something while you're with us. We're assuming you want truth by being here, right? So this is what we want to do, and we want to get better at it.
Yep.
Like not we're going to be from your perspective worse than we are now. Does that make sense? We want to get better at go. There you go again. There you go again. There you go again. Right? And you see, a lot of times your questions don't really matter much. It's the sin behind them that we need to address. Yeah. Right? And because if you can address the sin behind them, God can share all truth with you. Every question can get answered. So unless we deal with the sin, anything I say to you is going to be tainted by the sin. Everything. So you can see, unless I say, okay, let's forget about answering all your questions, Let's forget about, how the spirit world works here and how that works there and all these fascinating things that you want to be fascinated by, even though they are very fascinating, right? Let's look at the real problem we have, which is the sin. Because if I get rid of this sin, my conscience will work. If I get rid of this sin, I can receive love. If I get rid of this sin, I can act in harmony with love and not sin again, which means that I've less problems in my future. I'll be happier. It's practical. People, when we start talking about sin, people go, not again. Why are we having these theoretical discussions? I just want to talk about my feelings about this particular thing in my life or event or whatever. You don't understand. It's practical to deal with the very problem you face, which is the perception you have of everything tainted by sin. That's the main problem the earth has.
Yeah.
That's why we're in the hells.
Yeah.
We think sin is love.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. On earth, in the hells, in the condition it is. Now, if everybody changed that position, we could be living on earth in the sixth sphere as a minimum, the way God intended. The environment wouldn't be damaged. You wouldn't be driving around motor vehicles anymore. You'd be able to teleport instead, right? You wouldn't have to use tech because you are the tech. Your soul is the tech, right? You wouldn't have to do any of those things. This is why when people talk about tech and having more energy production for tech, and I don't care. The sin is the problem, and while I'm in sin, I'm going to use my tech for sin. I'm going to use energy for sin. Yeah. The world produces more energy, they're just going to use it to sin more. Yeah. Right? While the sin is in me, that's what I'm going to do. Right? So the main problem we all face is the sin we are personally in. Yeah? That makes sense to everyone? Yeah? Very important to understand. It has changed your very perception of what is real. What you think is real is not even real. Right? Out there, it looks pretty, but it's not. It's not. From God's perspective, that is not pretty. Looking out there, it's total devastation from God's perspective. Right? The sin causes you to think it's pretty. You like some wide open spaces and some green grass and some nice, neat trees along the edge. Right? It's the sin that causes you to even think that view is pretty. Right? From God's perspective, it isn't, because there's so much damage in it. There's hardly any living things in that view, aside from the green things you see. And that God didn't intend the world to be like that, right? And it's the same with our life. Everything we think is good, our sin is telling us is good. Everything we think is bad, our sin is telling us it's bad. Everything we think is right, our sin is telling us it's right. Everything we think is wrong, our sin is telling us it's wrong. Right? And until we get God's perspective and go, oh, goodness me, my whole perception, and gets back to this humility discussion. It's humble to realise that my entire perception of reality is actually based on my sin. What I think is real is actually not what God defines as real. And this causes us then to do things like present a facade to other people because we think that's real. And God's going, that's not even you. Yeah. Why are you doing that ever? That's not real. And one day you're going to come face to face with the fact that much of what you present to others is not even real either. Does that make sense? Not real. So this is why it's so important to deal with the sin. Yep. What's the time, people?
2:20, my love.
We need to have a break for lunch.
Yeah.
And what we might get, well, I think we'll probably only get a chance to do one.
Yeah.
I would love to get to help some of these spirits who are here too, because I've got questions about these matters. And so we would like to focus our attention after the break on helping them. And if you want to stay for that, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine to leave now. But I'm sure you enjoy it. By the way, what's on this board is not humility.
I know.
So
Don't look.
So one thing that anybody who sees this and sees the board, one thing I would encourage you to do is, okay, if a lot of that, and I'm not saying all of that is not humility, there's a lot that's not. And so if that's not humility, what is? What is?
Yeah, and maybe we can pick it up at, to be continued at
To be continued at another venue.
Yeah.
Not today's venue. So, but let's have some dinner, hey, and some lunch, and then we will come back. Yep.